Hello and welcome to the Business and AI Forum. Today is a day dedicated to programming focused on showcasing how business and business functions are being impacted by AI technology. Without a firm understanding of governance, organizational capabilities, risk management, investments, adoption efforts, etc., organizations cannot readily use AI as a source of competitive advantage. My name is Joaquin Milata, and I am the founder of the Swarm community, as well as the host of the AI Digest podcast. And Swarm is a community practice working on ESG problems with open source AI technologies. With us today is Jason Kaufman. He is the president and principal AI content strategist at Irrevo. Irrevo. I mistakenly called it Irrevo, so pardon me for that. Jason,
No problem.
it,
Pardon, full pardon granted.
thank you. Put it in writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a wonder to have you here. You have a presentation that you're going to be sharing with us, and you're also going to be sharing a demonstration of sort of the work that you're doing at Irrevo.
That's correct. Absolutely. I'm ready to take it away. I appreciate the introduction there. As Joaquin mentioned, yes, I'm the president of Irrevo. We've been in business for over 20 years, consulting primarily in the knowledge management space. But it's been a very interesting journey, especially over the last couple of years, where having built a business model entirely around content and content management in an era where anybody can create content in minutes, I've really had to reassess my business model, right? And so what I've decided to do is lean in to generative AI, learn as much as I can, and pivot, leveraging my knowledge management and content strategy background into a space where I'm now helping companies to implement generative AI within their organizations, in particular in a lot of their content creation processes. So I'm excited to demonstrate a lot of real world applications of generative AI. We've got a number of use cases I'm going to step everybody through. And we're going to save some time at the end, right, Joaquin, for some question answer?
Affirmative.
Awesome. All right. So revolutionizing work product creation, generative AI in action. And I definitely want to stress the in action. I think many of us have attended a lot of forums and conferences where generative AI is really talked about sort of in a academic sense, in a theoretical sense. This is really what I want to showcase is real world application in a business setting. So my personal mission is to introduce humans to generative AI. I know it's kind of broad, but it's really something that I find very exciting. Every single day I'm coming up with a new idea, a new use case, a new way it can be used to improve not just my personal life, but also my business processes and for my clients. But I find it really exciting, and it's always good to talk about something you're excited about. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the concept, before we dive into some of these demos, of AI intuition. I don't want to assume that everybody on the call here is familiar with or has used a tool like ChatGPT just yet. So I kind of want to start a little broad and then kind of hone in on that. But AI intuition is really just recognizing those opportunities for when you can use AI, for assignments, for workflows, building on your past experiences and pattern recognition, really those things that you do sort of over and over again without necessarily knowing, hey, I could use AI for that. So it's really kind of that light bulb moment. The second part of it is really understanding what the capabilities of AI are, what it can and what it cannot do well. And I say, right now, it's still in its infancy, right? These systems and models are as bad as they're ever going to be. They're only going to get better. So even if you've had sort of that first experience with using these systems and maybe it was subpar, try back again today, try back again next month. It's going to continue to get better. So really building your AI intuition is really getting that hands-on experience, just experimenting with the tools, trying to see what it can do, asking it to do things, and it'll tell you if it can't. There was somebody I was at a past conference that I was at that was, they said their first experience was they went in and they asked it a question and they got the wrong answer. So they sort of stopped giving it a chance at that point. But I've come to really know and believe that it's not about necessarily getting the right answer, which sounds a little odd. It's more about getting to the 10-yard line, right? There's that human element that still needs to be a part of whatever that process is. We are accountable still for the work product that we put out. So we need to review the information that we may then distribute. So also, identify some of those professional use cases. Start spotting those repetitive tasks, collaborate and network with other people who are doing similar things. Definitely think ethically about it and critically about it. Just because we can create an image that looks like a celebrity and sounds like a celebrity doesn't mean we should necessarily do that. However, there are people who will, but think ethically about it. So start small and scale. Begin with a pilot project, test out different solutions. There are many models out there right now that are free. You can go in and use the same prompt and ask the same question of each of those and just see which one does a better job. But I think most importantly, don't boil the ocean, right? It can become very overwhelming to try to stay in front of all of this change and all of this technology. I kind of equate it to, back in 1999, right, where there was a new website, a new solution online for everything, a .com for everything. Imagine, if we tried to stay in front of all that, we just couldn't. That's why Google was made, right, to help us, so we didn't have to. But I would just say focus on an area that interests you most and dive deep there. I think then you'll have sort of the best experience possible. So I also want to explain prompt engineering. Really, it's that practice of designing precise prompts to produce specific outcomes. What it is really that recipe for giving the AI context for what it is you're trying to achieve, who you are, who it should be to you. It's the framing of what you want to get out of it. So it's not just asking a question, right? Or asking it to write an essay, which it will do, but you want to give it some specifics about the role, the context, the request itself, the format that you want it back, and the constraints, some of those things you just don't want it to do as part of this request. So there's really an art to it, but if you kind of keep these elements in mind, you'll start to be able to write prompts that are going to give you a lot more specific and a lot more valuable output from the AI systems. So an example prompt here, act as an expert technical writer who has deep understanding of the telecommunications industry, products, and services. This can be anything, right? But in this case, really what's happening with the role is you're asking the system to narrow down from this huge corpus of information and data that it was trained on down to a very specific subset of that. You're kind of giving it guardrails and allowing it to really focus. So in this case, we're saying act as a technical writer. So in that context, it should be able to give you better results that are specific to that role. A deep understanding of the telecommunications industry, the products and services, so further allowing it to narrow down. Then the context, telling it what you're trying to do. Believe it or not, I'll say, well, here's who I am and here's the problem that I'm having. Here's what I'd like you to do. So it knows, so it has the context of the problem you're trying to solve, and it really gives it that ability to try to give you a better output there. Then the actual request. Here's what I'd like. Then the format, I want it in a table, or I want it in a bulleted list, or limit it to 150 characters. Write it in Mandarin, or French. So all of that is additional context. They're telling it, here's what I want out. And then the constraint. So you can provide it some additional data, and I'll show you some demonstrations here today that give it more and more context and say, hey, limit your output to just what I've provided you here. Don't change the facts. Don't hallucinate. Those are all examples of constraints. One little tip is limit prose, right? Just say, hey, don't be so wordy here. Just tell it limit prose, and it'll give you a more concise answer. So I'm going to demonstrate some use cases. So some of the ones we're going to look at today are ideation, right? Combating that sort of blank page syndrome. Distilling down community discussion. So I'm going to have I'm going to demonstrate a prompt that'll actually go out to a community forum, in this case, Apple's community page. It'll look at the discussion there, and it'll bring back a possible knowledge-based solution that would actually address that issue. So you can imagine in a support setting, the value that would bring in giving sort of real-time self-service options. An example of revising the voice and tone. So we'll have some content that will actually apply different styles to, different voice and tone. I'll demonstrate consolidation. So taking 3 different documents, in this case, articles, knowledge articles, down into one. So drafting that, compiling, and consolidating it down to one. Then we'll apply some other personas. Translation. So we'll demonstrate how it'll translate it over in various languages. And then sort of how we can shape it and shift it over to another output, right? So we'll have this knowledge-based article in this case, and we'll ask it, write a script for an explainer video based on that content. Then I'm going to turn over to the data analytics capability, being able to actually analyze lists, tables, spreadsheets, documents to actually get some valid insights into that. So I'll demonstrate analyzing user feedback. In this case, for the iPhone, I actually used ChatGPT to generate but fictitious feedback for the iPhone, just so I have something to kind of demonstrate. And again, same thing with conference data. So imagine you put on a conference, or you've got some survey data to analyze. We'll be able to kind of see how you can gain insights into that. It's really good with small sets, just from a user perspective. Quick insights, small sets, point questions. Larger data sets, it's another story. That's kind of more of an enterprise type application, completely possible. And there are products out there that help with that. But this is really just kind of end user in the workplace type scenarios. And then also another scenario, analyzing content usage data. So you may have all kinds of documents, articles, and whatnot, and have usage data around those, web page data, visits, views, that sort of thing. So it'll help you, can help you with all that. All right, so let's dive in. So I'm going to go ahead and take you out to ChatGPT. If you haven't yet seen ChatGPT, just a very quick tour. It's like a chat session, right? I have a paid version, but there is a free version, which is 3.5. It cannot do the data analytics or the images. Paid version is about, I think, $20 a month. I'm paying for a Teams version because I've got a team that goes through and uses this. And I don't work for OpenAI. I don't get any kickbacks there. I'm an independent consultant that's really just an enthusiast. So I'm going to go ahead and put this prompt in. As I mentioned, those elements, you're a skilled technical writer and content strategist. Here's who I am. Here's what I want you to do. In this case, I told it not to start without me. I wanted it to actually take a look at what I was asking it to. And it's just a prompt engineering trick, but what I'm asking it to do. So I'm not sort of overloading it. I'm kind of priming it in this case. Let's go. Yeah, so I'm ready to write the world's best document. So you can kind of start to look at prompts as coding with words, right? There are things that you can make it do just based on the words that you use, right? So it's a lot like programming, if you've got a mind for that, the system, the logic, but it's really technical writing. Some people have called this this era, the revenge of the liberal artists, right? Or the liberal art majors, because we're very well positioned to be able to go in and write for AI as an audience. So now it's saying, what's the primary objective or purpose of your document? So basically I asked it to kind of walk me through a lot of these questions here so I can get unstuck. I'd like to create or draft an API document. So I don't have a full understanding of APIs, but I don't need to. That's kind of the beauty of it, right? So what's the core topic or subject matter? A new SaaS system. So it can kind of continue to kind of take me along this. Now, at any point, you can kind of take the dialogue in a different direction. That's kind of the beauty of it. This is just the topic, just really starting the discussion. You can dive deeper, say, tell me more about this. What's the best practices here? In this case, I'll just say, can you provide me an outline I can use? So since I've already given it that initial prompt and that initial context, now my subsequent prompts don't need to be so verbose. It could be more point. But in this case, you're saying it's going through doing introduction, getting started, API endpoints. Now, even if I was familiar with APIs and API documentation, I guarantee you there are going to be things listed in here that weren't top of mind, that maybe didn't occur to me, that maybe weren't included in a template or a document that I used before as an example. It's going to give you new ideas. Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't think about rate limiting, whatever that is, right? So there's a section on that. And then you can dive in deeper and say, please provide a draft, even without any other context about what the tool is, the system, the APIs themselves, of section 9. So I can give it more context. I can paste in documentation that may be existing already. I can paste in a list of the APIs that it needs to document to give it more context so it can start to include that. But in this case, without any other context, it's writing an FAQ section for me. So that's ideation, at its best. Looking at it as an assistant, some people look at it as an intern, as a co-pilot, as Microsoft's branding it, but it's sort of all those things. As a tutor, my wife is taking some courses at college there. She's taking biology. So even using it as an assistant or a tutor in biology, providing it the syllabus for the class, saying, here's what we're learning. Can we dive deeper here? Can you put up, create a study plan for me? All of those sorts of things are now possible very easily. So is it important here that the information is correct? Absolutely. But what it did was get me to the 10-yard line. So I can take it from here. I can work with my subject matter experts who know exactly the correct information, the right answer. But I've just saved a ton of time. And that's really what this is about in a business setting. So let me go ahead and go to the next one. So distill the community discussion into a KB article. So as I mentioned, I've provided in this prompt, let me start a new chat. So every time you start a new chat, you start sort of a new context window. Now, ChatGPT in this case did just roll out a feature that will carry over from chat to chat to chat, some context from the previous chat. It's actually a feature you can disable, especially if you're doing a lot of different things and you don't want the context that you're giving it kind of cluttered. So you can disable that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this just in the background here so I can kind of explain a little further here. So I'm asking it to go out to this community support page. I'll actually open it up so we can take a look at it. And I'm asking it to look through this list of discussion threads. And based on how many people are viewing it, the number of comments, and so on, determine what some of the biggest issues are of the day. And then I'm asking it to dive deeper into whatever that biggest issue is and go and try to find a knowledge base article that may address that issue on the Apple support page. And then if there isn't one that really exists, I've asked it to draft a new article based on the discussion in one of these threads that would help those users answer the question. Now, often buried in those threads, the answer may already exist. Somebody may have already solved it. So here's its report. After reviewing the Apple Community Support page, one of the most prominently discussed issues with high engagement is related to the recent iPhone update, particularly the thread titled, "How do I disable change wallpaper from lock screen?" It's got 107 replies, almost 45,000 views. Given the widespread interest and impact, I suggest drafting a knowledge base article that would provide a comprehensive solution. So there it is. And so you can imagine scenarios where you may have an assistant who acts just like maybe a forum moderator and is constantly scanning through a lot of the dialogues there and actually creating real-time solutions. And that is an excellent use case and application for this kind of technology. So I even had it actually suggest the categories that this new document would be in and the meta tags that should be used. So if you're in the content space, you'd be able to just take this, put it into whatever your content management system is. But absolutely want to keep the human in the loop, and have this verified, human verified. You can even see at the bottom, it gave additional resources. So it's pretty intuitive. You can take it the next step and have it apply your style guide, apply a different voice and tone, translate. So those are also things that we're going to take a look at. As far as time, I think we're doing pretty good. So I'm actually going to skip the revised voice and tone because I've got something similar here with personas. So here's a consolidation prompt. And you'll see sometimes in my prompts, you'll see some markdown, and you'll see it in the output, some markdown. I actually prefer that. It's a little trick in prompt engineering, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a second. So let me go ahead and start a new chat, put this prompt in, and ready. So as that's running, quickly with the markdown adds another layer of context, right? So it is giving the system, giving the model an understanding of how things are laid out. What the title is, what the subsections are, what's bold. It gives it additional context so it can view those instructions and understand them better to, again, give you better results. Now, it's not all that easy on the eyes. I don't recommend drafting prompts using it, but I'll draft it without it. And I've actually got a GPT or assistant that I created that will actually just put it in Markdown for me. But you could just as easily use a prompt. It just says, hey, convert this to Markdown code, and it will do it. So with this particular one here, I've asked it to take 3 similar but different concepts that all had to do with wireless connectivity. In this case, it's from the T-Mobile customer support site. So can't find the Wi-Fi network, troubleshoot no signal or no service, and then here's fast fixes for 5G home internet. So they're similar enough to where I could say, hey, take these and put it into one sort of comprehensive troubleshooting guide for connectivity for our products. And so that's what it did. I've consolidated the information from the provided links into a single comprehensive document focused on troubleshooting and setting up T-Mobile Wi-Fi and internet services. So you can see troubleshooting Wi-Fi connection issues, managing Wi-Fi calling, device and service compatibility. Make it step by step so I can troubleshoot any of my issues. So I'm going to make it a little harder. Right. I'm going to make it think harder and say, okay, well, this is great. You got it in sections here, but I want an end-to-end troubleshooting guide that would apply to all of these. So check your Wi-Fi connection, the old turn it off, turn it on, your network environment, update firmware, configure Wi-Fi calling, steps 1, 2, and 3 under each of those. So you can start to see the utility for combining things that may be similar. And I'll show you a prompt, I think, in this demo that will help us identify potential articles or documents that can be combined. So that might be a precursor to this. So that was consolidation. So personas. Take a look at this. In this case, I've given it a lot of context, but I'll talk through kind of what that looks like as well, and the reason for that. So what I'll do is I'll take our output. Let's just take this. I'll use that in this context here for the persona. And sorry for flipping around as much as I have, but so I'm going to go ahead and so I ran it. So I've outlined 3 different personas, and I've asked it to ask me which one I would like to apply. So persona 1 is like an expert narrative, given it an example of all of its writing style, its personal attributes, analytical expository type persona, again, writing style and attributes, and then practical, insightful writing style and attributes. Now, keep in mind, when crafting these prompts and putting together the context, again, this is one of those AI intuition moments where you're like, well, I can have ChatGPT or one of these other language models actually tell me what some of the writing style and characteristics or personal attributes may be that I can use, that I can reference. So absolutely, I'm using this to build better prompts. I'm using AI to build better AI prompts. So let me go back to, here we go. All right, so here are the 3 persona types. Please select the persona to use for revising your draft article, and then share the draft with me. I can just literally put 1, but I'd like to apply persona number 1 to the following article. And so I just literally pasted in the output from that other prompt that we'd run. So here we go. So expert narrative, it applied that persona style. Navigating wallpaper settings on your iPhone, a personal journey. Right? So part of being an expert narrative is telling it in terms of a personal viewpoint. Steps to disable wallpaper, changes from lock screen, alternative methods, conclusion, additional resources. I can iterate on that. I can change it. I can say, now apply number 3. Maybe I don't like that style. So here's the practical, insightful persona, managing wallpaper settings on your iPhone. So you can see the tone of it is just different. And that's the idea. So you can start to think of this in terms of marketing applications, and really applying voice and tone and style to all of your content, maybe in customer support or mailings or magazines, articles, newsletters, lots of applications for this. And you start to think of the consistency of the voice and tone that we all strive for with our businesses in applying these types of models. So that is the example of the personas. We can have a little fun with translation now. One of the things that I did early on was I sort of played the telephone game. Basically taking one piece of information or one article and having it translate from English to French, and then taking that French output and starting a new session with a new context window, because I didn't want it to be able to refer back to this. So this is just a test, right? Didn't want it to be able to refer back to the initial English one. So clean context window, asked it to go from French to Mandarin, and then a new context window, Mandarin to Arabic, and then a new context window, Arabic back to English. And then I compared English, the original English, to the output English, and they were very, very close. So that to me is just one test, playing the telephone game sort of approach, A/B testing, I guess, to see if there's quality and consistency there in translation. And I'm speaking to a translation and localization in-country service provider who's reassessing their business model because this has become easy for really anybody to do. But again, that human verification element in country, having somebody read through it and make sure that the brand and voice and tone comes through after that translation. A lot of that you can do by honing and modifying your prompts and customizing those prompts to get better and better translation. So which language would you like to translate to? Let me just take the output of one of our previous ones. Let's translate the following into Arabic. And forgive me if I've misspelled that. So here you go. It's translating it into Arabic. I mean, this blows my mind every single day. I'm always seeing something new. But like I said, maybe taking this and again, translating it back to English, just see how close it was. Running those kinds of tests, especially if you're in a business environment that is looking at using large language model as translation, take some of your current content, run it through, see what the output is, make tweaks and adjustments to your prompts so that they just kind of continually get better and better. Not just the prompts, but the context that you provide to go along with those prompts. So real quick here, I'll take this and now I'll ask it to basically take this and put it into a video script. So let me go back and take this. Here you go. All right, so I've taken our article now and I'm running a prompt that's going to convert it over to a video script. I can ask it to put it into a storyboard, recommend images that could go along with it. And I've done this, and I do this for our newsletter that we put out every month. But yeah, so here we go. How to manage your iPhone wallpaper settings like a pro. Welcome to our tutorial on managing a wallpaper settings for your iPhone. And part of that would come with, here we go, on-screen text, explore alternative methods, conclusion, and so on. So again, you can apply your voice, tone, all of that to video scripts as well. And you could just say at the end, please just put it in paragraph format so I can paste it directly over into my AI generated text to voice video generation tool. Okay, so those are those. So here's the data analytics side. So in this case, I'm going to leverage it to take customer feedback from a certain document IDs for a specific product and analyze the data. So this is where it can get a lot of fun, as if it's not fun enough already. But I'm going to go ahead and browse out to my desktop, demo data, user feedback data. So I'm literally just uploading the file there. Now, if you're using a system that has a long enough context window, you can open the file and copy all of that data or just the rows or columns that you want and paste it in directly, and it does just as good a job from what I've seen. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think we're near the end of the window for the presentation, but I think this has been one of the more hands-on and accessible ways of showcasing how generative AI can be used to augment the capabilities of workers, of knowledge workers, people that work within a white collar profession, how they can leverage existing knowledge as well as repurpose knowledge that they may have within an organization in multiple different formats.
Right.
You do host these engagements as workshops within organizations to show people how they can leverage AI and teach them the anatomy of a prompt, teach them the methodology of how to develop their own prompts. So with that, I guess who should reach out to you and for which purposes?
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I'm just letting this run in the background here, so you can start to see some of the analysis. Yeah, we do brown bag sessions. It's a 45-minute session where we'll talk to up to 100 of your team members at a time, and really just kind of show a lot of the things we showed right here, but we'll dive deeper into some of your use cases. So if you've got certain ideas for use cases within your organization or certain pain points that you want to try to see if AI can solve, you can reach out to me. You can go to ai@irrevo.com. You can email me there, and we can have a discussion and potentially present to you, your team, and find some solutions. So I don't know if we've reserved time for questions, and I do apologize if I have not.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. What we can do right now is if you do have any questions, either you can reach out directly to Jason or you can comment below. And as we go through the weekend or gain capacity next week, Jason will be more than happy to go and answer them individually. So I guess
Absolutely.
for the time being, thank you very much, Jason, and thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate you coming to learn.
Thank you so much for having me, Joaquin.
Always a pleasure, Jason.
Bye bye.